This is Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. We are the #1 business show on the planet with over 1 million downloads a month. Taking the BS out of business for over 6 years and over 400 episodes. You ready to start snapping necks and cashing checks? Well, it starts right about now.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Right About Now. It's our weekly business news episode of the week here on October 4th, 2024. Joined, as always, here in studio. We got Sawyer Rice behind all the studio, making everything look good, smell good, feel good. He is the producer of the show. And, of course, the lovely Brianna.
Hey.
What's up? And Chris Hansen down in Miami.
What's up, y'all?
Hey, surviving, which we're blessed for that. We made light a little bit, and it's the unfortunate thing of the weather and how bad weathermen are sometimes that you sort of like make light of what the weather might do. I will apologize for any light-hearted jokes we had because it was not light weather here in G Vegas and impacted a lot of people, including us here in the studio on some levels. Sawyer had a tree through his house, no power for 4 or 5 days, and a lot of devastation, especially in North Carolina. So it was crazy. Chris, did you get hit with anything at all? Were you south of all of it?
No, we were fine in Miami. It was a little wind, and I mean, we were getting like the very, very outer stuff, I think, just coming in from south.
Yep.
But it was nothing. It was all on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah. Your parents fared well?
Parents are fine.
Yeah.
Sister's house in St. Pete flooded out, like 4 feet of water. I mean, St. Pete really got ripped. Anyone coastal in Sarasota, I know some people that their bottom floors soaked. Yeah. But still nothing like what we're seeing in, the Carolinas.
The strength of the winds, when the storm came in, I mean, our power went out immediately. You could, as soon as that wind picked up, it was like 10 minutes later, power's gone. It was like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. I can't, remember. And trees have just been there. I've lived in Greenville. I did have stints in other cities, but I'm a Greenville native. So watching the amount of wind when we're this far on off the coast, we're 3 hours inland, was the most I had ever seen. It was hard to tell when it was going on how devastating it was, even though you're like, the problem was we had 24 hours of rain the day before. So it loosened up kind of the ground, the gravel, and all these trees, I think. And so the devastation was just crazy, particularly in North Carolina. It was hardest hit. Brianna, man, you just moved from California. It's like, welcome to South Carolina.
Hurricane Helen, what I'm hearing is that it's the worst hurricane that the Carolinas have ever had in the last 100 years. So in the last century, right, we just got here. We've never experienced a hurricane before. Thankfully, the house that we bought doesn't have any big trees in the yard. But it's funny because my list for our realtor included, I want a lot of mature trees. And then we ended up not getting it. Thankfully, because we didn't have any trees go down. But Hurricane Helene hit the Carolinas really hard. There's a article here from NBC News. Southeast is reeling from the deadly storm and heavy flooding. And I know you guys know everybody's in the Carolinas has been affected by this. It was really surprising for us.
Yeah. Crazy. And Joe Biden is here. Actually, we record this a day or two earlier, depending on the week. Joe Biden is actually here on the ground in Greenville today, doing his rounds and doing stuff and, doing what presidents do when there's natural disasters. So we'll keep that part of the show non-political. So we appreciate the president coming and touring and providing the relief that's going to be much needed. I didn't feel like it caught necessarily the area by surprise. I just think the reality, though, it was just so strong. This area is just never going to be prepared for that amount of storm strength, right? Because you don't have a precedence for that coming through. And you don't have a precedence for a million trees falling, whatever the total ended up being.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I do have a couple of girlfriends back home whose husbands are linemen, and they are getting sent here. So, we're getting linemen in from every state and even Canada.
Yeah. So a lot of people coming to help, which is great. And we do want to give a lot of friends and family that I have is from the Asheville, Brevard area. There's a site on Instagram, our page, Beloved Asheville, is actually, and that's really where, look, there's devastation everywhere, but the most devastation, most life that was taken and really like homes gone was in that North Carolina, Asheville area, the mountains, foothills, all that stuff. So I'm actually going to be making a donation to Beloved Asheville. You can check them out on Instagram at Beloved Asheville, not Nashville. Remove the N. Same spelling, but remove the N. My good friend Michael Hobby checked on me, who was in Nashville with 1,000 Horses, actually sent me a text right when we started this podcast, checking on me, which made me think of Nashville. But anyway, their Venmo is venmo.com/beloved-Asheville. So if you want to make a donation, again, it is money that is needed for a lot of families and a lot of impact that's happening there. I will be making a donation. You'll see that on my story after the show, and would love for anyone listening that is capable or able to make a donation to do it in a time of need for this area. So we're here to do our part as part of the community and to acknowledge it as both a major news story, but also just a major life story. And I think this is the time. This is what makes America great, though. These things happen and we come together, and so much of the bad gets politics and all the stuff. But when shit hits the fan, Americans take care of each other. And that's what it's all about. And so we'd encourage you to check that out. A lot of other organizations, there's probably endless ones that are taking donations, but the areas that we've seen hit the hardest was in that Asheville area. So again, you know, they say you can control everything but the weather, unfortunately. And our hearts go out to everyone that's been impacted even more than we have here locally. Any final thoughts on this topic here, Brianna?
I just wanted to say, just kind of reading through this article, over 150 people, have lost their life from the storm and the aftermath of the storm, not just the hurricane, but the flooding and the landslides. There's still 1.3 million people without power. So just thoughts and prayers to everybody that has been impacted by this storm. And we really appreciate all of the support. If you're giving financially, if you are bringing donations to, a credible boots on the ground resource that's going to be getting those things to people who need it. We pray that everybody comes together during this time, and we appreciate all of the donations. And like you said, Americans helping Americans.
Moving on, what's else on our list today?
We have quite a bit on the list today. So some interesting corporate chaos going on in the world. I have an article here from Fox Business. CEO exits are up at an unprecedented rate. Record CEO turnover in 2024. There were over 1,000 CEOs that left their position by the end of Q3 in 2024. I just thought this was super interesting. How many, is it an economic thing? Are things changing in the business landscape? What are your guys' thoughts on this? That seems like quite a bit of turnover. Average age of departing CEOs is 61. So the question is it an economic or business indicator, or is it an age factor?
I think it's both, but I do think it's an economic. I'll start with the economic. I don't know the 61. And with today's biohacking and everything else, if they're on the same potion my dad's on, who's 72, and looks like 58, I don't know what that guy. I just hope I got his genes. But I will say, it's the uncertainty of the economy combined with short-termism a little bit. Everybody wants results now. There's no patience anymore. These companies pay millions of dollars for CEOs, CMOs are turned over even faster. That was sort of my route. I was a CMO in an agency before starting my own agency. That's where I would be if I didn't own my companies. I'd be a CMO somewhere. That's my path. And I'm glad. It's not easy running your own companies, but I'm glad I'm not in that sort of grinder, because I know no matter how good it's, Johnny come lately, how good of a job you do that first year, it's like CMO's average tenure is 18 months or something. It's fast turnover. And CEOs is usually not as fast, but I think you have this uncertainty combined with unrealistic expectations from boards and stockholders and everything else, and a lot of reaction to maybe their competitors. If they start doing something different or the same, they want to be reactionary really quick to, we're dated or we're not doing what we should be. But I do think the overall climate of the economy is playing an impact here. I don't know what you think, Chris.
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything you said. And the only thing I would maybe add on top of that is technology is moving so fast now that I think you might even have a lapse of understanding. And, when you said your father, I think of my dad and, how adept are they at understanding this new emerging AI and this type of stuff where it's not even a matter of how smart you are. It's like your brains just weren't ever introduced to this type of thing. It's a completely foreign concept. It's like teaching someone a foreign language. So that popped in my mind. But I think the main thing is, like you said, boards want to see numbers. If you're not putting up numbers, you're on the chopping block. That's it. And I think now, like you said, people want results faster than ever.
Yeah.
So
I think you nailed it with the technology. I think I'm going to talk maybe B2B more for a second than B2C, but like the technology and the decision makers are younger and younger and younger, like on sales.
And the founders.
Yeah. And so they're used to this digital technology, and the old way of selling doesn't work anymore. It's not personal as much. They're consuming content. So you have to feed the top of the funnel with content, interesting, informing, because they're consuming the content without a salesman like selling it to them. Like they're consuming it when they're at the beginning of the buyer journey. And then you have to digitally, you're DMing. Hey, DMing in Instagram, DMing in LinkedIn, and starting the dialogue there. And then self-serve channels, even for B2B in purchasing, are getting higher. And I think the businesses that are embracing like the new reality that is versus the old reality are thriving. But then the older CEOs that don't understand that, hey, we just got to make some more calls today. We got to make some more calls today. And it's like, I mean, no one's answering the phone. No one.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the age, it is the age, but I think it's a mindset thing. I've met some 60-year-olds that know more about AI than I do.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it's a mindset thing more than I think, an age thing.
Yeah, definitely. Beg the question for me when Chris was talking about technology and technology advancements and this average age of the CEO. This is a question for you too. What do you guys think about average age of U.S. presidents if they're regulating all the technology and the AI? I feel like they would have to understand it.
Great question.
Yeah. No one's going to get on that. I think that the average, that it should be like 65, like cut off. Now, maybe when I run for president, when I'm 66, I'll change my mind. But like, hell no, I'm not
This
running
is
for
our
president.
problem. We have
Ryan
a
offered for
disconnect.
president.
No.
there's a disconnect from the lawmakers and the actual population, right? And that's, you have a bunch of grandmas and grandpas voting on things that they don't understand, right? And that's where probably companies like Facebook could get away with violating our privacy laws for a decade, right?
Oh,
and
they've taken advantage of the aging of the boards in Congress and Senate.
Yeah. You ever watch Zuckerberg or the CEO of Google get questioned by Congress? It's a joke.
Yeah, it's a total joke.
That's when you realize they have no idea what they're talking about. So
how can they regulate it?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of politics, I wanted to kind of jump down to Vance and Walz had a debate last night. I was surprised, it was a little bit heated at moments, but they were finding some common ground on some issues. It was surprisingly civil. They were getting along pretty well. They had quite a bit that they agreed on, some key topics. I know that this is, huge for the American people right now. Paid family leave. So they both supported that idea. Walz favored a federal mandate, while Vance advocated for more kind of business choices, more flexible bipartisan solution. They both acknowledged the severity of gun violence, especially among children, and school shootings. We recently had one in Georgia, and they agreed on housing being way too expensive, uneconomical for a traditional family to continue to buy a home and be able to have home ownership. And then interestingly, they kind of went back and forth here on abortion rights. So Vance, of course, leaving the issue to the states, agreeing with Trump. Walz highlighting his whole stance on abortion. Very interesting, though, that they had quite a bit of common ground there. What do you guys think?
I'll say this. I mean, I hate the lack of civility that we have in politics now. And I don't care for Walz personally. I don't know why Vance gets such a bad rep. I think he's so well spoken, and I could get why he's kind of got that pretty frat boy look to him that I think annoy people. And I understand it. I get it. But the guy is intelligent and speaks very eloquently and knows his shit. And so, but I'll say this, the civility of it was refreshing. And I don't have to love Donald Trump to vote for him. You know, love every tactic, every way. There's a lot of shit I don't like that he does. But I do believe in the heart of heart, he wants what's right for America, and he's standing up for what's right for America. So it's not we don't keep it hidden on the show who I'm voting for. But I will say, to give them both credit, the civility of it all was more of the way forward. That's the American way. Because I'll tell you this, America at war with each other is only good for everyone that's not America. So it ain't good for America to be at odds with one another to the level that we are. It's okay to disagree, and we can be passionate about that disagreement, but it's just not great for America to neighbors to be hating one another over blue or red.
Yeah, 100%. Chris, your thoughts?
You nailed it, Ryan. I don't even need to say anything else. I mean, it's exactly how I feel. We need civility. We need real conversation.
Yeah.
We need to have a mature adult conversation and debate. You know,
and my mind can be changed on things. It has changed on things. But
it will never change in an emotionally charged, dramatic debate, right?
No.
And they almost know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't think Donald Trump created that environment. I think he's playing the ball field that I think got created, some of it because of him and not by him. The hatred for him and sort of the easy mark that he becomes for the lightning rod, because he says a lot of stupid shit sometimes. I'm sorry. I love the guy. I respect him as a president and a freaking warrior for getting up for taking that bullet. He has my utmost respect, but I also don't have to love every approach. And so I do commend them for that civility, but ultimately the policies for me are one side, but I can talk about it. And I'm not going to let my hatred or disdain for a candidate guy. This isn't the class election for back to high school, it was just popularity contest. Who's the president of the school? This is not a popularity contest. This is real policies that have real impact on dollars and cents and the cost of gas and the cost of everyday goods and the cost of running a business and the cost of trying to take care of your employees. So policies predict future outcomes, and just go with your heart on your policies and not the popularity. Because I think that's what it's turned into. And the guys last night, it felt more about the policies.
Yeah, definitely. I have here, the debate displayed a notable shift towards a more issue-oriented and respectful discourse despite lingering partisan disagreements. So I think we're on the right path there. And it always seems like in VP debates, they're a little bit milder, a little bit less dramatic.
Always.
Yeah.
But we can learn something from that whole exchange. And I mean... I think if you poll the average person, though, they want to see more of that than the lightning rod shit. You know that they do. You know they want to see more civility. If you ask anyone, everyone's fatigued from it. They don't want the mudslinging and the knife throwing at all times. It's not productive. A lot of the reason that ultimately I am independent. I vote the way I want based on policies and not red or blue. That's why I support Independent Center. They are an official sponsor of Right About Now. It's about independent thinking. It's about elevating the discussion in a civil way. I think the guys last night represented that. Go to independentcenter.org. We have the link in my bio and on the show notes to them. Sign up for the newsletter. You're going to get poll data, all kinds of stats and ways to have dialogue about policies and not parties. Check them out, independentcenter.org. We support them because we need to be thinking through the lens of what matters and not popularity contests.
Business bombshells, you guys, we have to talk about this. So, what is going on with the ports and the fact that we are facing, on the heels of a hurricane, a global supply chain shutdown potential? So, what we're facing is some corporate chaos. So this is something I'm going to kind of bring to you guys. When there is stuff going on in the world that is a little chaotic, that's what I'm calling it, corporate chaos. So right now, what we are having is the first strike in nearly 50 years by dock workers on the U.S. East Coast. So it's freezing trade routes from New York to Texas. The ports are paralyzed, shipments are delayed, and businesses everywhere are starting to scramble. I've seen it all over social. Have you guys seen it?
I'll let Chris start on this one.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the Port of Miami is right down the road of my house. I've seen videos of them protesting and whatnot. This is bad. This is really bad. You got to question, does this have something to do with the politics, right? The timing is suspect. I don't know. It's not a good situation. I mean, I can empathize with the port workers, right? But then you see these videos of these ports that are becoming fully automated. And it's like, at what point do you realize, like, you got to find something else?
Yeah.
And I hate to say that. That's the reality of the world we're living in. And we've talked about this a lot with AI taking jobs. And I saw another port worker in Los Angeles port put up a video while he's working, showing everything automated, saying this used to be a guy working this. This used to be a guy working this. So if I'm seeing that and I'm a port worker, I'm saying, oh shit, I need to start to look for a new career path. Probably.
Yeah, got to gain some new
And
skills.
I hate to say that because I'm a fighter, but right now, you're not going to get the empathy of the American people as a union guy right now doing this shit. I hate to say that, but it looks to me like a lot of people are getting more angry at the union people because it's going to obviously affect everyone's pocketbook.
Oh, yeah. I mean, tens of thousands of striking dock workers, halting operations at ports, causing significant economic disruption. I've heard like, hey, prices at the supermarket are going to go sky high, especially for things like produce, cold items, milk, eggs, meat. It looks like Biden, proud of his pro-union stance, refuses to intervene in the strike and calls on shipping companies to appropriately compensate workers who kept the ports running during the pandemic. Okay, that's great, but like you said, we're 45 days ahead of the election right now. We have people in the Carolinas who haven't been able to get food for the last week. And now we're facing a port shutdown, which could cause the price of milk to skyrocket. It's like, where do the people, the American people, find relief? Ryan?
Well, we
think?
also just had how many millions of men immigrants come in that if they needed, they could probably fill these jobs and pay less money. I hate to say that, but
Interesting
that's the reality of the
perspective.
situation too, is like these blue collar jobs, they can be filled from other bodies.
Yeah. That's where I was going to go is like, I mean, it's this dangerous part with union, the good and the bad with unions. Like,
Yeah.
be careful. There's somebody that might do that job for you for less. I mean, it's a slippery slope. And I just think the whole inflation thing and the cost of goods is a very complex subject. And if we want to like give the administration that is there now a pass somehow, like on no accountability for it, it's their reaction or non-reaction to things like this or the planning ahead on some level, because all of these things are adding up to higher costs of goods. And they're like, it's complex. It's not one thing. Well, how are we thinking ahead on this sort of thing? And what are we doing to turn it around so that the prices start to fall? I keep coming back to like, okay, why do I feel the way that I feel? It's this lack of accountability all the way around. And
That brings me another question, and I'll bring it up when you're done.
yeah,
If you
like, but the accountability of policies, behaviors, actions, and inaction. Sometimes inaction is the unintended consequences of inaction creates more issues than anything else. And I think and that's sort of my biggest problem with like Harris is like, she's so wishy-washy on certain things. She's played that, you know that guy, or that girl, that person that you know that sort of stays in the middle and tries and falls down to the side that seems the most popular, like the last second or something. They never really take a stance, or it's a lot of inaction until forced to have action. And that creates more trauma than anything else sometimes.
We've played no offense. And like you said, and this is what bothers me, and this can be applied to the hurricane victims as well, right? We've got these union guys, very important part of our economy, keeping our ports open. They can't reach a deal with the government on the pay. But in the same week, we can send another care package with billions more money out of the United States that does not affect our economy at all, right? I don't know what kind of imports we're getting from Ukraine. I know we're exporting a lot of weapons. I don't know what we're gaining as an American consumer, but I know that they're quick to help Ukraine. But why are we not proactively thinking, oh, this contract is going to expire with our port workers unions, whatever, with longshoremen. And if this doesn't get done, it's going to affect every American and inflation is going to skyrocket. And you see videos today of people at Costco cleaning out water, cleaning out toilet paper. People, you're seeing the same crazy COVID stuff going on. But that's my question is we have so much aid money to every other country. We have hurricane people suffering right now because we can't get a federal mandate to relief money in there yet.
Yeah.
What it would seem to me, every time the government's about to shut down, the last minute they approve a new spending package real quick. Why would we not already have that in place to keep our economy moving in such a vital part?
It's really interesting too, because 100%. I'll say this. It's always eye-opening to me, especially seeing these aid packages go out in the billions of dollars. And then when we have a devastating thing happen in the United States, whether it was the fires in Hawaii, right, or this hurricane here in the Carolinas, just watching the world stage and watching nobody come to our rescue.
Mm-hmm.
How much is mainstream media covering the hurricanes compared to the wars overseas?
Yeah.
Not
the same. And it's like, they're going to get money for the hurricane victims, and that money will come, but it still doesn't change the fact of what Chris is saying. It's like that money comes from somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's 100 different things that add up to why things cost more, why they're taxed more, why all this. And I wish we didn't have weather issues that created billion-dollar issues in the U.S. so that we could give away hundreds of billions of dollars, but we do. And where are we prioritizing? Because the net sum isn't just printing more money. It's coming from somewhere. We're either stealing from the future or we're borrowing from the past. And right now it feels like we're stealing from the future.
100%. Well, speaking of the Middle East, I do have that on the list of things to talk about today. Tensions are really high in the Middle East again, and it's causing two things in the business world. Number one, oil prices are going to surge up, and number two, Bitcoin is down. So for this week, Middle East tension has sent oil prices soaring. So defense stocks are booming, but it's not all profits. Industries like airlines and manufacturing are bracing for impact. Ryan, how do you see this price spike hitting the global economy? And are we on the brink of another recession that we're already in? How are we going to handle that in addition to the port strike, in addition to the hurricane? Like, where are we going to be between now and November?
I'm probably going to go a direction you wouldn't think. We need to be pumping more oil where we live. We have it here. The pipelines should be more active than they are. We've put such limitations on it here. We don't need to be so dependent on the Middle East. We've become less. We don't really need to be dependent on them at all, practically. And let's start there, because then you just have less pressure when this stuff starts to happen, right? We're self-sufficient, and we can poo-poo. It's a world economy. I agree with the world economy and premise and all that, but it still needs to be America first. And it's not. It's kind of the same point as the last one. Like, let's maximize the resources that we have here and maximize taking care of those here. And I get it's a delicate balance. We can't not take care of our allies overseas. If we let other powers just go unfettered, I understand that global dynamic, but But I can't understand the priority of the things at certain times. And I can't understand why we wouldn't be building more of our own internal resources. And I know it goes back to the whole climate thing. Everything gets political, yeah, one way or another. But I'm sorry. Like, if we've got the resource, we should be building them here. And there's a lot of uncertainty over there, but the whole lack of strength in the White House isn't helping either. Because I feel like no one's scared right now of America. And I'd much rather us, but this is sort of the Democratic way. We're going to coddle everyone and we're going to pay everyone. We'll send money. Everything's about comfort and taking care of. And sometimes it's about fucking strength. And right now, we need to be a strong country, a strong nation, both internally with our own resources and our people, but then also our outward strength. I think Zelensky needs a little tough love sometimes. I get it. But it's just, you just can't keep writing these checks for nothing. It's not nothing, but it's, I don't know. There's just a temperature that I don't care for.
100%. I thought it was pretty crazy. I was on Instagram and TikTok yesterday evening watching the missile strikes. Iran shot a ton of missiles at Israel yesterday afternoon in retaliation for something, and it literally looked like shooting stars just raining down. It was crazy. And, you know, it's having an impact on Bitcoin. Chris, what are your thoughts on the impact on Bitcoin?
I mean, I don't look at the stock market, but I would imagine it probably impacted that too. I mean, I see the defense stocks went up. Oh, shocker. You know, they're firing missiles. Lockheed's getting more money.
Yeah.
Good for them, for everything they've done for the American people, right? But no, I imagine it's correlated. I mean, obviously crypto is worldwide. So you do have exchanges in the Middle East. I mean, Dubai, Middle Eastern country, is a very large player in the crypto space. So even if this is emotional, right? People react to this, but I still think it's funny. Like I'm reading the headline, right? Bitcoin tumbles back to 60,000. Bitcoin is up 115% in the last year. So
yeah.
My point to this is
data lies. That's a perfect example.
Yes.
In marketing, we say data lies. That's a perfect example.
A year ago, Bitcoin was at $26,000. Okay, so
Yep, we can see the graph here.
This is micro noise in the grand scheme of things. Like, you could have still put money in a year ago and been up 115%. That's insane. It's better than 12% from the stock market, right? So I see this is filler news, right? It's just,
this here's from CNBC says surging unrest across the Middle East has propelled oil prices upwards and reinforced the dollar's strength, casting a shadow over Bitcoin and other speculative investments. That's a quote from Chris Klein, Chief Operating Officer and founder of Bitcoin IRA.
I'd much rather see us taking care of Israel than sending checks to Zelensky, because
we just sent a relief package to Taiwan too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Israel is taking names over there right now with some of the things they're doing, but we need a show of strength for them. But I'd support that a lot faster than some of how fast we're sending checks. You know, I get that you got to do it all or as much as you can, and it's complicated, but we don't want to know what happens when it goes to complete shit over there. That is not good for America. And the lack of strength with Israel and a little bit of this tepid relationship, I don't think is good for America personally.
100%. Lots to cover this week in the news. I think that there are a lot of different things going on. I really hope that we're able to come to a conclusion with the dock workers and that strike does not impact each and every one of us and our businesses and our people, and just going into the end of the week really reeling from, the hurricane, the strike, and everything else.
I will say this, we talk about a lot of things, but I'm a firm believer in control what you can control. These things matter, but your own mind is what matters. I have opinions on these. We share them. This is an opinion show, but ultimately you have to get one foot in front of the other, no matter who's the president, no matter what's happening anywhere else, and do what's right for you and your business and everything that's going on. So we like to inform, but I want to make sure people just, stay in the now and focused on what matters for driving your business this week, next month, not 2 years from now. Because we can get real speculative real fast about things. Because, I mean, it could be endless worry, doom and gloom. And some of these headlines aren't good. But I'd spend more time, if you're going to do the doom and gloom, just be praying and thinking about those in the Carolinas that went through the issues. But then taking care of your business at home and doing what you got to do. Any final words, Chris?
You nailed it. I agree with it. Don't give all your energy to the negativity. Focus on what you can. Just do what you can control.
Yep.
And do the right thing. And you'll be good, in my experience.
Yeah, do the right thing. Be a good leader. Be a good business owner. Take care of your people. And take care of one another.
Yeah. What goes around comes around. You know where to find us, ryanisright.com. Find all of the links to all previous episodes, this episode's, all social media, and anything else that you want to learn about the show. For Chris Broby Hansen on Instagram down in Miami. Brianna Hall here in Greenville. Sawyer Rice back there behind the studio, always making it happen. I'm Ryan Alford. We'll see you next time on Right About Now.
This has been Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. Visit ryanisright.com for full audio and video versions of the show or to inquire about sponsorship opportunities. Thanks for listening.